Hello everyone, this is Taryn with Wonderfully Made Handcrafting, and today I'm working on day 7 of By the Well for God's Consider Jesus devotional. Now this is a very simple page. I'm just basically making a cluster with a very simple background, so it would be easy to follow if you want to do something similar. So all I've done is I've taken one of these journaling cards and added one of the quotes that was in day 7. In day 7 we're looking at Matthew 11:29 and 30, talking about how Jesus is a resting place for us. And Jesus says, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." And we see Griffith Thomas make a quote in here. It says, "It is a rest from striving, a rest through believing, and refers to the attitude of the soul towards God." And so I added that to this journaling card with my typewriter, decided to just type it up in that little sky area. And then I have this stack of books, ephemera piece, and some florals from the Floral pack, and I'm just creating this nice, easy cluster. I also have this kind of spiral bound paper scrap. This is actually from a 49 and Market set, and I'm adding a little book spine scrap under there too to add some texture. Now I'm going to slide that piece in between the book stack and my journaling card and just add a dot of Barely Arts glue, and that should hold it just fine. I also want to dirty up this little spiral bound paper that is actually a very thick kind of cardstock, so it has some nice weight to it, and I will add that to the back side of this journaling card. I just broke it off because obviously it was going to be a little bit too big. I like having it hang down a little bit past the journaling card. And now we're going to move on and do some fun things with these larger brads from Tim Holtz. I got these and I really wanted that cool texture hammer that Tim Holtz came out with as well. However, I was trying to save my money, and so I decided to just use a hammer we already had in our house. And so I have this little finishing hammer, and I'm just gonna put these brads through some paper to start with, and that helps me, not hit my hands or fingers as much when using the hammer. And it you can still spread out the fastener on the back side afterwards, so it's not a huge deal. But I'm just making the holes to be able to put those in, and then I'll start hammering away, and I will color these in with some distress crayons. Now, I do make my camera move quite a bit as I do this, but I really like the look that it gives. It gives this nice aged look to them. I am using the walnut stain distress crayon on them, and I don't rub it too much. I want to get that color nice and in those cracks. And so now I will add some holes in the journaling card as well. Now a lot of times I will do an odd number. However, I'm really liking 2s lately. I don't know why. 3 of these just seemed like too much, so I like the 2 in the bottom corner. Now I really wanted to use these rub-ons that I had from Tim Holtz. I have been loving them lately. I don't know why I didn't invest in them sooner. And so I was trying to figure out how I could use them. And so I decided I was going to create little tabs at the top of the journaling card. And I looked through the By the Well for God ones, but I liked some of the different kind of blue colors in these journal cards from Tim Holtz, and I liked how one of them was really plain, so I'm going to layer them up and create just this layered look behind the journaling card. So I'll use my tab punch out 2 tabs, and then I will use that rub-on. I decide to use the one that says field notes, as we have that nature book at the bottom left-hand corner of my cluster, and I just thought it would go well together. These rub-ons are really simple to use. You could pick a certain section like I am today, or you can pick a whole bunch of stuff and just rub it onto a background. It'd be a really simple background to create. But what I've done is I've just cut out that little field notes section. I peeled off the backer paper, and you're left with this clear sheet that has that rub-on on it. And then you use the popsicle stick. It comes along with the rub-on kit, and you can tell when it's not completely rubbed on. So I start peeling it back and realize that that D is not fully rubbed on. on so I can place it back down easily, and then it all comes off and it's perfect and it's great. It's a different way that you can get a stamped look without having to stamp. So if you're traveling, rub-ons would be great, especially since Tim Holtz has a bunch of the stamps in the rub-ons as well. So check them out because I have loved them. So now I'm working on gluing those tabs together. I do staple the two ends so that holds it, but I didn't want 3 staples. So I just have a little bit of glue on the back side. So now we're going to move on to my simple background. Basically what I'm doing here is dusting off all that frayed burlap that is always on that makeup brush that I use, or some sort of brown. And then I'm going to come in and use some Lost Shadow. This is that new Tim Holtz gray color. I absolutely love it, and it looks beautiful with some browns, and it has a nice kind of vintage look to it. So I'm just making a really light background, just enough so I can see some differentiation between the side with all my words and verses on it versus the plain paper, because I am going to come in and use some texture paste on top of this. So I am grabbing the Sprout stencil from By the Well for God that was released this past kit. I absolutely love it. It reminds me of a really fun wallpaper. And then I'm using Opaque texture paste, just the plain old texture paste that you can get. There are so many different texture pastes that you can get now, and this is honestly one of my favorites because you can do so much fun stuff with it. But I am just using it super plain and simple today, just adding it in these 2 corners, and then I will come in a little bit more because I felt like I wanted to cover up a little bit more of the background so it didn't look so much so that I was just putting it in the top left hand corner and bottom right hand corner. Once I saw that with the cluster, I knew that I wanted to fill it in a little bit more, but I didn't want to make it perfect. So I'm not adding it everywhere. I'm just kind of going through and making sure that it lines up as best as possible. Once I'm happy with all the texture paste, I'll come in with my date stamp and stamp that on the left-hand side of the page. I'll also highlight the verses that I worked through today, Matthew 11, 29, and 30. And then I will come in with my heat tool and make sure that that texture paste is nice and dry before I add my cluster down. I don't want to smush any of the texture paste, and it, can take a little bit of time when it dries naturally. Now, opaque texture paste, you can dry it with a heat tool. It's not bad for it, and not bad for you either, I don't think. But anyways, I just dried off a little bit and then add some frayed burlap, my favorite color, and add some to the texture paste because I liked having that color back into the page. And so I will use my Barely Arts glue, cover that whole cluster down, and paste that down, and then this page will be done. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. You can also find me over on Instagram at Wonderfully Made Handcrafting. I'll try to link everything I use down below in the description, and I hope you have a wonderful day, guys. Bye.